patterns. Number patterns are quite difficult for students to get a hold of the first time. There's easier patterns to kind of understand or see, but then the patterns can get a little difficult. So what I mean is this, is that they're going to give us a series of numbers, and we're supposed to predict what the next number is based on the pattern that we're seeing. So what I'd like to do is start with this guy right here. Now, when you're predicting a pattern or you're trying to figure out what is happening, you do have to take an idea. No one's going to help you. That's the thing about this. You're on your own. So when you do this, you always take a look at the first number, and then I say, okay, I want you to take a look at the first number and then see the second number that's shown. And then say, okay. Now, what I'd like you to do is to think about it. They gave you a 2, and then they showed a 4. And then I asked students, well, if I start with a 2, what mathematically what using math could I do to the 2 to make it become a 4? Now I'm going to ask you, what do you think? If you said, well, I think I could take 2 and add 2 to it, couldn't I get that 4? And I'd say, yes, that's possible. That is quite possible. And some students might say, well, Baron, couldn't you take 2 and multiply it times 2 and get a 4? And I'd say, yeah, it's exactly right. You could do those 2 things. So I'd say, okay, now we're stuck with these kind of 2 ideas. It could be, those are 2 possibles. But I say, look, you always need to now check the next one. And it says, okay, now you look at the 4, and I say, okay, from 4, the next number was 8. So now you have a 4, and it's moving to an 8. Now I want you to think about the 2 ideas that got you there. And what you want to do is you say, I can either come down here and I could say, did they add 2 to get 8? You're like, no. 4 plus 2 is going to give me 6. So maybe that won't work. Let me try this thing. Did they multiply times itself? Was it 4 times 4? No. 4 times 4, so it's not the number times itself, because 4 times 4 is going to give me 16. Oh, well, what about 4 times 2? Oh, yeah, well, 4 times 2 gives me 8. And then you're like, something's going on. I see that maybe the 2 times the 2 gives me a 4. Also, the 4 times the 2 gives me an 8. And I say, okay, cool. Now, take that idea and try the next number and see what works. So I'd say, okay, well, let me try the 8, start here at 8, and let's see to get to 16. I'd say, okay, well, let's try. So if I have an 8 and it's going to a 16, can I just multiply it by 2? The answer is, yeah, okay, 8 times 2 is 16. So I would say, okay, cool. So what is the pattern? And the word they're going to use is this. What is the rule? Now, that's what means is the rule says, what are you doing to every number in order to create the next number? And say, they're multiplying them both by 2. And so, yeah, I think I agree to that. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. So I'd say, well, what's going to be the next number then? Well, it's going to be 16 times 2. And I'm like, yeah, what is 16 times 2? 32. I'm like, yeah. So that's what the figuring out the pattern is. Now, again, remember, they're going to use the word rule. And what it means is what is being done to every number to create the next number.